It's our job to take this into like this.
Hey everyone, welcome to the channel. My name is Belgian Jasper. If this is your first time on the channel, hit subscribe right now. One of the most anticipated albums is the new album by Sumo Cyco, the band that brings us a happily deranged mix of punk rock, new metal and pop influences. The band is gonna take us back to Cyco City for another round of crazy stories. I sat down with Matt and Skye to learn all about it. You guys are a textbook, do-it-yourself band. That's how you got your traction. Now you're working with Napalm. Napalm, one of the larger labels right now in the heavy rock and metal world. How is that for you guys?
Well, we haven't given away any freedom.
No, I feel like this record cycle is actually more work than ever because we're just on a tighter schedule because we actually have people that are counting on us and we can't just like be like, oh, we're pushing the release back a couple days or pushing the single release back a few days.
And our manager was like, hey, do you guys want to keep running your online store? Because you are going to meet more people, obviously, and you might get inundated with more products. And Skye's like she's a go-getter. She's run this thing from the start, right from the ground up, just trying to run this thing. So she was like, nope, I want to run my store. I still want Napalm to do their thing, but I want to run my store. So we have had a lot more pre-orders than enough that we've got a lot to sign. That's for sure. It's like a signing party here every other day. There's a band member right now. Our bass player is in the living room signing away too. So it's one of those just. We definitely didn't give much control up. Skye doesn't like to give much control up.
Think about, how crazy, we fit in, I think, a little bit different than some of the other Napalm bands. And I feel like that's a testament to the fact that they've let us be ourselves and be different. And they've really come, I describe it as they come under us and support us instead of trying to come at us and change us or influence us. They're like, where's the record? Once you hand it over, they're like, great, let's make this thing pop. And same with the music videos. And so a lot of support from Napalm. Thank you.
Really good. Skye doesn't like to let too much control.
I'm a control freak. I can't.
And there's been times where I'm like, hey, we got to. And that's half the reason we did sign with Napalm was she did let some of it going we were already scaling to a place where it felt
I was overwhelmed.
We were already getting overwhelmed we can't, when we're on tour, nobody's running our store at home. There's a bunch of things. So we started thinking we needed to sign in with somebody, find a partner that can help us expand where we're not swamped as much. Although we are pretty swamped stuff.
Okay. The rise of Sumo Cyco is kind of going together with this whole resurgence. Not that you guys are necessarily part of that, but definitely a new interest in 90s music. New metal is coming back significantly. Matt, when it comes to your guitar playing, your style fits in as well with a Bring Me the Horizon, as well as with, a System of a Down or a Mudvayne. Has that, how do you take that? Has that wave of new metal from the late 90s, has that been a big influence for the band?
Yeah, I mean, that's where I was a teenager, through that time. So I can't say that wasn't a huge influence on my life. And some of the first bands that I ever got into on the heavier side of genre, the genre came through the new metal side. I mean, bands like Linkin Park, I would consider, a bridge band that took a lot of people that may have never listened to heavy music before and kind of invited them into that world. And so that's something that I kind of consider our band as in the same way, a bridge band that can be hop between genres and help people discover different styles of music.
I feel like sometimes the word new metal gets a bad rap. I'm like, there was a lot of cool stuff, man, when that hit. Yeah. And that's the whole idea, was that it was not your typical metal. We're getting something different. And so I would consider us a new wave metal, a new wave of new metal to an extent.
New band. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that's what we do. I love punk rock and I love metal, and Skye loves we love dancehall, we love a lot of stuff. And you fuse that and you go back into the new metal world. And that's what a lot of things were happening then, when they were, from hip hop and, rap and some dance hall back then, that was all getting fused then, and it's something that we've always kind of liked. So yeah, I wouldn't say that. I mean, I actually, there's a couple times where I'm like, man, it seems like right now is the time for us more than ever. There's a lot of, that sound is starting to, hit a bit more on radio, and we're like, cool, like we've been doing it for years, man.
Don't test me, I've got to break free from this feeling. Why is it so damn hard to see?
You're absolutely right. I mean, it was definitely, a gateway to millions and millions of people, and now it's starting to happen again, where you see that you guys can fit in on a tour with Slipknot, but also with The Offspring or even a Lady Gaga.
We open for Lady Gaga.
And I'm so glad that you understand that, because I think a lot of people, they misconstrue it as like we're as if we're doing this not on purpose. Like we just can't get that heavy. It's like if we wanted to be that heavy, we would. We actually really like bringing all these different things together and finding that middle ground. That's where I feel the most comfortable.
Yeah, I think we've in our heads, we're striving for as high as we can always go with this thing. I always want to grow and get bigger, and I feel like when there's a certain level of heaviness that will only stay in a certain place, and I love that, but I don't want to just be there. I want to keep expanding and meet stuff, and that means we have to expand our minds and our music. So that's what we kind of do, is experiment as much as we can.
Vertigo, I got vertigo.
When you guys are playing shows, do you see that you get a very similar reaction to your music from the crowd, or can you tell that there's a different reaction to you from the more quote-unquote metal crowd versus a quote-unquote more alternative or mainstream crowd?
Well, Matt and I were talking about cold crowds recently, and when you get in front of a crowd that has no idea who you are, they've all got their arms crossed, they're all waiting for the headliner band, and those are some of our favorite crowds to play in front of, because they don't know what's coming, and it's our job to take this into like this, right? Like we want to get everyone out of their shell. We want to make people feel like we're about to have a fun night. We want this to be like the highlight of your week or the highlight of your month. Or
and I think sometimes we win over people that we don't even win over on recording. Like there's times where people are like, it's a little too poppy for me. It's a little too this for me. I think there's that like elitist a bit in the metal world, and there's like that hardcore guy that just can't help himself. As soon as he hears a girl vocal, he can't help him but think it's not cool enough. But I think when they see us live for what we do, I think we usually win a lot of them over as well. They can start to understand what we're trying to do, which is still playing a heavy world and create some heavy chaos, but have a different kind of vibe and a fun while we do it. And taking ourselves too dark and, serious in some way.
We take ourselves serious when we create our music and we create our live show. But as soon as we're in that moment on stage, it's like, whatever happens is going to happen. We just got to have fun with it. So that's kind of our attitude.
For those of the people watching this video who've not, explored the band before, doesn't really know the backstory that you created on Opus Mar and Lost in Cyco City, can you tell those people a little bit, what do they need to know about the fictitious world of Cyco City before they fully...
Matt makes fun of me for this, because this is a little bit of my brainchild, going into like the comic book world and alternate universe, and
I love it. I'm with you in some of it. Just some of it I don't get myself. That's how psycho it is that I don't know myself.
So to me, everything is an analogy to like the things I'm going through or what life means. So if I'm battling with depression, it'll show up as like an evil kind of character trying to get me. Or if I'm experimenting with different genres, it'll show up as like different kind of like outfits and different characters that I'm turning myself into. So everything kind of has in a way, kind of like a never-ending story type double meaning to it.
That's kind of like my life around this girl, is like living in this like weird fantasy world. Some days I don't know what I'm gonna get when I run into her.
But never boring.
Never boring around her.
Our main mascot is our Terranaut, which is a terrifying astronaut. So that's where we came up with the world of Terranaut. And there's the big skull-headed creatures that have the spirals in their eyes.
I told her I wish we had named the band that. I like that more. Terranaut.
Yeah. And so we have fun with it. And it's kind of gives me a little bit of a direction and kind of a fun Easter egg hunt for the fans that kind of weaves itself with all of our visuals, our music videos, or even our album cover always has Cyco City on it in some way if people look into it. So everything is connected. It's just how deep down the rabbit hole you want to go.
Sure, it's a fictitious world and it's, you know, weird adventures and so on, but it does represent the real world. And, you know, it's pretty clear pretty quickly in the newer songs that themes of, you know, standing up for your individualism, standing for yourself, you know, are key themes in what's coming towards us. Traditionally speaking, or maybe I should say on paper, you know, fighting anxieties, you know, finding your true self, and paired with the colorful imagery and poppy sounds, you would say on paper, that's a perfect combo for the average teenager going, you know, through puberty. At the same time, the last year, everybody has been, no matter who you are, where you come from, everybody's been dealing with, you know, facing these kinds of anxieties that myself being in my late 30s, was not expecting to go through anymore since, you know, my 16-year-old time. So are you seeing with the new material that you're getting reactions, that you're getting a fan base in areas where you didn't expect it?
Oh, it's interesting to put it like that. I think, yeah, you're completely right. I think that this pandemic has led a lot of people to have a little bit more of an inner dialogue with themselves and to face some types of fears and analyze their lives in ways that maybe they haven't for a while. And I think that really lends itself to the themes you talk about that we do put in all of our music, which is empowering yourself, getting through obstacles, fighting those inner demons. And that's something I've always dealt with myself as an artist and somebody I consider myself forging, you know, my own path through this world. And I do run into so many roadblocks and moments that make you wonder, do I go left or right or up or down? And so I write about that a lot. But the one key factor, and I think I've said this a lot of times in interviews too, is that we always want to have that glimmer of hope, that light at the end of the tunnel. And in everything that I write, I try not to be completely pessimistic. I try to say that we can get through this. Like there is that dance within everyone's life that we can try to enjoy. And I really want to be, as much as I can, you know, bringing fun and liveliness and happiness to the world of rock and roll. I want to make it.
That being said, our next single is called Bad News.
I wanted to zoom into one of the new songs, you know, No Surrender. The band and yourself, Skye, have often been already compared with No Doubt. That song in particular, when I listened to it for the very first time, it was like, I get such a just a girl vibe from this song. My wife and some of her girlfriends that are all in their mid-30s, they were teenagers when No Doubt was really big. That song came up, you know, at a cottage weekend, and the guys were like, oh yeah, good song. And the girls were like, no, this is an important song to us. And I, as a guy, never understood how much of an important and empowering song that was for teenage girls. You guys are, I think, very good at reaching out to a young audience. And there's obviously videos of you guys, you know, doing stuff in high schools. You've had a lot of experience yourself being a very young artist early on. That teenage girl empowerment and that message of like, yeah, okay, there's bad news, but there's gonna be hope at the end of it. Is that an extremely important message of the band?
Yeah, and I also think, like, exactly like you said, to me, nothing makes me happier when I can see like those young rocker chicks show up at a show and they tell me it's like the first time they've ever come to a rock show. Like, to be that like gateway we talked about earlier, to be that influence on a young girl's life where they're like, wow, like I can be on that stage, I can rock out as hard as the guys. Like, to me, that's so important that we have those role models for girls.
Letting girls know at a young age, at a very young age, they're supposed to be powerful and strong and be heard, not just seen, I think is really important.
I saw Gwen do push-ups on stage while she was singing that song, and I was like, I want to be that so bad.
She was
you know?
iconic to me. She was like the first, because I'm older than Skye, and I went through that era when Tragic Kingdom dropped. To me, I was that perfect teen that was a dude guy, where I liked punk rock music, all dudes, all dude, everything dude, very little women musically in my repertoire that I was listening to. But she was the first that really broke through and took what I consider bro-y, elitist, punky guy and made me go, whoa, chicks can rock.
You know, it is kind of crazy to think that, you know, I started off singing Disney stuff and now I'm signed to one of the heaviest labels, you know, in the world. So I have come a long way, and it's been quite a journey. And I think I'm the type of person, whether it's to my detriment or not, that as soon as I feel like something's kind of working, I just take a left turn and I go, well, I want to do this as well. And I want to try this as well. And I think Matt's feeling that right now, you know, with some of my visuals. Like, even when I finally get the, you know, heavy label involved with us, I'm like, let's put out like the most poppy song that we've done yet on the record and put that out and see what the metalheads think. Like, I'm just a shit disturber and just want to try weird stuff all the time. And I think that, you know, having that history,
I just deal with it. I just like go along with it all. I love it. I like the controversy. I like dealing with people that have to deal with our weirdness. That's for sure. There's times where I'm like, hey, maybe we don't need to go so far this way, but there's no winning with her.
Yeah, I always like pushing buttons. I love experimenting.
Last question. I know you guys are very creative. You've had a lot of output. Has, in that case, you know, COVID-19 been somewhat of a blessing? That I can't imagine what kind of stuff you've already been cooking up in your kitchen. So what should we keep our eyes open coming at us next from the band?
Yeah, well, you know, getting through this COVID situation, we've been putting all of our energies into making music videos, and we've been trying to keep in touch with everyone via social media as much as possible. We have created some really cool bundles for our album, including an album book, including USBs that have exclusive
you name it,
content.
we have everything right
now. So we're doing everything we can other than play live shows right now, and
we're working
fingers
on
crossed that will happen.
Working on a music video right now as well. Skye's literally in the middle of editing another music video, so that'll come out May 5th, I think is when we're going to do that. Yeah, just before the record drops, we're going to drop another song, Just to Be Wildcats.
There you go. Matt and Skye, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it, and I really look forward to the launch of the album.
Thanks so much, Jasper. You rock.
Cheers,
thank
my man.
you. Appreciate it.
You're awesome for watching this video. Click right here to see more content like it and subscribe to the channel.